If you've ever wanted to play a 3D endless runner game, you can basically pick a random franchise and there's one out there for you. Just to name a few, there's Sonic, Cut the Rope, Talking Tom, Bendy and the Ink Machine, Crash Bandicoot, Perry the Platypus, Spider-Man, Despicable Me, Little Big Planet, Looney Tunes, Bear Grylls, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Forrest Gump! While most of these games are based on Subway Surfers, the 3D endless runner that consistently dominates all others in the genre, even that game is a copy of the original, the classic Temple Run. It is truly insane what effect Temple Run has had on the app stores, and how flooded we soon became with not only branded titles, but ripoffs of Temple Run itself. Simply trying to find the original Temple Run game, you're going to see loads of knockoff icons that are clearly emulating the style. So what happened? Why is it so commonly copied? Why did it get overthrown by Subway Surfers? And where is Temple Run today? Let's discuss all of that while we play through every game in the Temple Run series, and what the heck, while we're at it, let's rank them too. I say this every time, but I thought there were only 4 Temple Run games. I thought the series was dead, and it kinda was for a while, but nope. Our list of games for today are Temple Run Brave, Temple Run Arcade Machines, Temple Run 2, Temple Run Oz, Temple Run VR, Temple Run Puzzle Adventure, Temple Run Plus, and Temple Run Idle Explorers. Wonderful, can't wait to end the list with an idle game. Let's find out if the original games still hold up, what the hell Temple Run has been up to in recent years, and continue to run away from that damn monkey who constantly invades my greatest fears. The creators of Temple Run, Imanji Studios, have made a handful of games prior to Temple Run, starting all the way back in 2008. A lot of the big mobile game companies like Rovio or Zeptolab worked on a couple projects here and there, but kind of faced instant success with their first mobile game attempts. Imanji made mobile games for 3 years before working on Temple Run, which looks like a masterpiece compared to some of their previous titles. The game only took 4 months to make, with the work being split up between 3 people. Imanji was founded by a husband and wife duo, and they hired a single artist on top of that. I find that quite endearing and very impressive. Their most recent game, Max Adventure, featured a kid making his way through levels and defeating enemies. The game was a massive failure for the team, but rather than giving up, they used the structure of that failure to create their greatest success. They felt that Max Adventure was too complex, and by creating a simplified experience from that, they could really create something special. Most games at the time required you to move your character with an on-screen joystick, which I've always found more clunky than anything. Removing that control was the first step in Temple Run's development. They also had planned to give the character a top-down view, where you move the environment rather than moving the character. They felt that style made players a bit dizzy, and still didn't feel quite right. Instead, they opted to place the camera behind the player and restrict their movement to only left and right turns. One of the most iconic parts of Temple Run, I feel, is its setting and tone. It feels almost creepy in a way, and way more realistic looking than most popular mobile games at the time. It really stands out because of this, but I really want to know how they came up with the style. I believe the darker tone comes from the temple setting. While developing the game, they needed a location for the player to run through that would never end. The game already felt like you were navigating a maze or labyrinth. The main 2 ideas for this were the Great Wall of China and, of course, the Aztec temple we see here. The character you play as has just found the treasure from this old temple. The monkeys came in after realizing the character needs a reason to never stop running. Obviously, he's being chased. Originally they used aliens from the last game, but the artist came up with these demon monkeys. Apparently he just liked doodling these characters. I don't know about you, but when I doodle, it usually doesn't involve demonic monkeys. But they did exactly what they needed to, terrify the player and add a sense of fear and adrenaline. They were very worried that the app icon or the creepy monkeys would scare players away, but in my opinion, that is the main reason I actually like Temple Run. I would not have enjoyed a bright and colorful game with, I don't know, just as an example, a cute policeman and his dog chasing you instead. Man, that kind of game would never be successful. Temple Run would feel pretty empty if you were just running with no other goal, so coins and gems were added to give the player an extra motive while playing. They found it was oddly satisfying to collect a full line of coins. And there it is. The game was done and it released on August 4th, 2011. It did cost 99 cents at first, as most mobile games at the time did, but later became free with ads and in-app purchases galore. Must have sucked pretty hard to pay $1 for the game and then get force-fed ads when they changed their mind. It didn't become a hit until it became free, and then it wasn't just a hit, it exploded. The gameplay was very intuitive, extremely simple, and insanely addicting. Within the first year of the game's release, 10 million people would play the game daily. It was at the top of the charts more than Jetpack Joyride, Words with Friends, and even Angry Birds from time to time. The game featured a few playable characters, with the most notable being Guy Dangerous, the default main character, and Scarlet Fox, who would become much more prominent in the series' future. After obtaining an ancient idol from the temple, a group of demonic monkeys would begin chasing you as you endlessly run away from them. As you run, you can pick up coins, but your main goal is to survive. There are obstacles to jump and duck under, turns in the path you must choose to follow, and a few different changes in the terrain. The game gets faster and faster, making it harder to keep going. You can use your coins to buy power-ups or continues to help you beat your high score. Most games after this follow Subway Surfer's lead with 3 lanes to jump between. Temple Run, however, has a single lane you can move back and forth with using tilt controls. I think it's safe to say most people dislike tilt controls, but I think it's very seamlessly integrated into the game. It adds a layer of control that doesn't require you to use a touchscreen, which is pretty cool. The game was endless. You will never beat the monkeys and you will never escape the temple. Your main reason to keep playing is to get a good score and hopefully just have fun. I think a lot of people playing mobile games now feel the need for constant rewards, something to work towards, and a feeling of consistent accomplishment. But when the game first released, none of that mattered. People just liked playing games, you know? For fun? Ever heard of it? I've got to be honest though, when Temple Run first released, of course I played it, but there was such a massive list of other games out there I simply preferred. I always loved Temple Run for its setting and endless running gameplay, but it wasn't something I really cared to come back to. In terms of this gameplay style though, I've yet to play any game like it that is nearly as good. I know people say Subway Surfers is the best in the genre, and I get that. I've always felt that game is so slow though. You can easily spend 10 minutes running before the game even starts to get challenging. Temple Run is quick. Before you know it, you're barely holding on for dear life, and it's exhilarating. You'll die a lot quicker, but it's because the game gets challenging so quickly. Slow and monotonous gameplay is plaguing the genre, I feel, and we'll talk more about that later on, but thankfully I don't think the original game faces that problem. When I've made videos like this for other series like Cut the Rope and Where's My Water, I went chapter by chapter discussing each new mechanic and setting. But with Temple Run, we're kinda done. The game's simplicity is partly why it's so popular, and it makes my job a heck of a lot easier. As I mentioned, Temple Run is my favorite 3D endless runner. I'm not crazy about the genre, I've never spent very long playing any game in the series, but as far as this type of game goes, I think it's the best. As always, we start a list with an S tier. I'm really waiting for the day we start with a low placement and work our way up to an S, rather than the other way around. I guess when I eventually do the Bloons series, we'll finally make it happen. Anyways, let's move on. With such a massive success, you just know brands were jumping on the Temple Run team. If you were getting countless companies begging to work with you, I bet you'd make the same decision they did. When Disney wants to collaborate, you probably want to hear them out. In 2012, Disney and Pixar's newest movie was set to release. Pixar is getting their own Disney princess, the brand new Scottish icon, Merida. The movie follows Merida and her strained relationship with her mother, resulting in her mom transforming into a bear, and a completely separate evil bear, Mordu, acts as the antagonist. It definitely makes more sense in the movie. My favorite part is when the little pervert bears go on the maid's big boobies, but that's besides the point. Disney was basically making movie tie-in games for every release at this time, because even if the game was good or not, it got a ton of attention. Apparently, Disney didn't want to do another mediocre tie-in game, something that's hyped up before release and then never thought of ever again. They, of course, had seen the success of Temple Run and were interested in the property. If I was a Manji, I'd definitely take the deal too. So that's how this game came to be. Disney wanted to make something new and exciting, more than just a movie tie-in game. Let's see if they succeeded. The menu screen with Mordu looking at you from the darkness is so unbelievably cool. He's the perfect substitute for the monkeys, one of the most terrifying bears in animated history. As you probably expect, Merida is the playable character here, and you're running in a typical town in Scotland. Literally go to any location in Scotland, and it's going to look exactly like this game. In all seriousness, I felt the setting of this game was really lacking compared to the first. There wasn't a ton going on in the temple, but at least it was more impressive looking than this. I know Brave didn't have that many cool settings, but we could have at least seen them run through like the castle or something. Like come on, think about how funny that would be. They're so rich and their castle is so huge it feels endless. I think something like that would have made the game more entertaining for me. Really, the only new thing Temple Run Brave brings to the table is these bow and arrow sections. Every now and again this icon will appear on screen and you can shoot each target to earn some bonus points. These sections have no obstacles, you aren't penalized for missing or shooting too many arrows, and let me remind you, this is the only new feature in the game. Besides some on-brand power-ups, I guess. Who was playing the first game when you had the Wildy Weast in this one?
I will bite your finger because I'm the queen of the queen.
By some miracle, I managed to get every Temple Run game on my phone, except Brave. It's a sad day, I know. I had it on my old Kindle Fire, the most convenient way to play, but I also downloaded it on my laptop to record footage. It did not tell me it was a modded version, so it was a nice surprise to be so rich from the get-go. I played that version first, and on my first run, I thought I was going to be really bad because I couldn't use motion controls. But I was doing great, I couldn't believe it. The game must be easy, or maybe my mummy was right all along, and I really am special. And then I realized I literally could not be killed. It's embarrassing how long it took me to come to that realization. The best perk of this was I was able to unlock everything from the start. I was hoping to see all my favorite Brave characters like Lord Dingwall and Wee Dingwall, but instead there's a few costumes from Merida and one 500,000 coins costing King Fergus. Who the hell wants to play as King Fergus so badly they're gonna play this game until they have 500,000 coins? A typical run nets you between 500 and 1,000 coins, by the way. I love that the character tab is just a blurry image of King Fergus too. Like, what the hell? If you had a chance to unlock King Fergus, would you? We get to see him throw his axe instead of shoot an arrow. That's really the only change you get. I hope it was worth it, anyone who unlocked him for real. Remember how I mentioned that Disney wanted to make a big movie tie-in game that was more than just your average one-time mobile game? And then they literally reskinned a popular mobile game and called it quits? I can imagine a million ways for this to be an exciting collaboration, but this simply isn't it. I hate to bring up Angry Birds Rio in a Temple Run video, but it's truly the only movie tie-in crossover game I can think of that is genuinely good. That is genuinely more than what movie tie-in mobile games have ever tried to be. It's not like Temple Run Brave was unsuccessful, it was huge. Of course it was, but it never got updated, never received support. I want to play as a big booby lady getting chased by the pervert brother bears, now! Anyways, let's summarize. This is a reskin of the original game featuring characters from one of Pixar's most mediocre movies, with less exciting visuals, one unlockable character that costs an obscene amount of in-game currency, and one new feature that only halts the gameplay, and it costs 99 cents. I am truly sorry to anyone who loves Brave or remembers loving this game, but I hope I've conveyed how disappointing this experience was. I actually remember liking the game, and I was excited to try it again. Now I'm pretty worried to try the other spin-off I remember liking. I'm sorry to say this was a very poorly done spin-off, and it's going in C tier. If you're at all curious, there is an arcade machine version of both Temple Run and Temple Run 2. People always say, you forgot the arcade machine when I make these lists, but you're not gonna get away with that this time. They also love to taunt me with the board game, so guess what? I don't need to try Temple Run Danger Chase, I already know it's horrible! D-tier! The first game's arcade machine came out in November of 2012, and you might be asking, how does an arcade version differ? It freaking doesn't! That's why I never include them! If you've ever played a mobile game arcade machine like Crossy Road or Doodle Jump, then you know exactly what I mean. It's a version of the game you have to pay to play, when the original is already free! The only gimmick is that you control your character with this little ball, and you slide to jump, duck, and turn. I'm sure it's fun once or twice, but seriously, just play the damn mobile game. D tier. And let's preemptively put the sequel's arcade machine down there too, because it is the exact same idea. Speaking of the second game, they got right to working on it in early 2012, with it releasing on January 16th, 2013. It was announced and released at the same time, which must have been a pretty exciting time for the fans of the series. The reason for making a sequel rather than updating the original game is much more logical than most mobile game sequels, I feel. The way the original game was made was very limited, as they were creating it with no plans for expanding it further. Then the game blew up, and they started to think about ways to improve the gameplay formula. Rather than completely changing the first game forever, they opted to create a new one from the ground up, with the ability to continue updating it and adding features over time. No matter what you think about the second game, the faithfulness to the original game is really nice to hear. I don't think many developers really care about preserving a game people love, or maybe I'm just used to talking about Rovio too much, but they could have easily tainted and ruined the original series with these changes. Instead, we keep the old game and we get this new experience as well. If you don't like it, at least you still have the original. Well, besides the ads you have to watch every round, but that's how all mobile games are these days. Imanji had tons of investors wanting to scoop up the property and change everything, but the team went against that, choosing to continue making games that they love and that fans will love too. I think that's pretty respectable, although I question that a bit, having seen the most recent games in the series, but we'll get to that later. Temple Run 2 is visually pretty breathtaking as soon as you launch the game. Compared to the original game, the graphics are absolutely stunning. Considering the feel of the game is one of my favorite aspects of the series, I am very happy with Temple Run 2, despite the fact that it's much less creepy and dark than the first one. At least we still have demon monkeys, this time a massive demon monkey, an absolute icon. He would be a lot scarier if I hadn't seen the Springtrap suit they made of the guy. As a sequel, we have a lot of the aspects you typically expect. New mechanics like the minecart or the water slide sections, new obstacles to avoid, and a much greater focus on power-ups like the dash, shield, or magnet. There were unlockable characters in the first game, but now there are really unlockable characters. They each have different power-ups too, giving you a reason to actually play as them. There's quite a few ways to unlock characters, from generic scrolls to specific character tokens, and of course, gems and microtransactions. There's also the really cool way of unlocking Scarlet by watching 7 ads in a row. Man, mobile games are so much fun these days! The cast of characters is truly insane this time around. There are returning characters from the first game like Guy and Scarlet, and then there's a bunch of freaking anime girls standing right alongside Bruce Lee and Usain Bolt. Wait a second, that's not Tamatoa!
I will break into your house and make you feel unsafe.
Definitely the biggest and greatest aspect of the sequel is the brand new maps. I think the original game should have absolutely featured new maps. The ability to find new locations with different gimmicks is 1,000 times more interesting and exciting to me than getting to play as an anime girl. Okay, I lied, I like playing as the anime girl. But seriously, having a ton of maps to try is a great incentive for me to keep playing the game. The way you unlock them is, of course, with in-game currency or purchasing them straight up. Personally, I've always loved the idea that if you ran far enough, you could discover new locations, and that would be the reason you'd want to get new high scores. It incrementally gets harder and harder to make it to the next location, and discovering for the first time would be really exciting. But that's not what we got. The first new map I got was based on the event going on at the time, with rainbow painted waterfalls and annoying colored puffs of smoke in your face at all times. I definitely prefer the default stage over this, but hey, it's free at least. There are a few maps they allow you to try, like a pirate themed location. They each have little gimmicks, but I've yet to try one that I thought was more fun than the original. Maybe the first game it shouldn't have got new locations. I tried getting a mod to play the others on my laptop, but no motion controls, couldn't make it too far. They built the second game to last, and so far it seems like that's been a success. The game has a fairly active fan base and has continued to be updated since its release. There's an event going on right now, although I'm not sure if they just repeat events at this point or not. But still, they've aimed to make a long-lasting Temple Run experience, and I think that was successful for a lot of players. A couple of years ago, the game received what the fans like to call the ugly update, which is extremely funny to me. I've seen a lot of mobile games do this. After years of the same UI and players getting used to the look of the game, they change it, and it always looks worse. Always! It was also extremely buggy and removed players' high scores. They lost a lot of fans, and even though they eventually reverted most things back, it sort of ruined the game's reputation for people who actually like the game. From a first glance, I think most people would say that this is the superior Temple Run game. There's more to do, new locations to explore, cute anime girls to try, but there's one major flaw that makes me think otherwise. As I mentioned about Subway Surfers, most rounds will take significantly longer to become challenging, making the gameplay feel pretty monotonous. And once you know it, Temple Run 2 does exactly that. Rounds go on for much longer, and it doesn't get challenging until you've been playing for like 5 minutes. It feels so much less exciting this way. Most of the time I forgot there was even a giant monkey chasing me. I don't think that makes this a horrible game, I just personally find it inferior to the original gameplay style is all. By the time Temple Run 2 had released, the Temple Run clones had already swarmed the App Store. What was once a refreshing and exciting new gameplay style was now saturated and overdone. It's not Temple Run's fault, it was a good game, but when anything good is ever made, there will be countless companies attempting to grab a hold of that success. Again, just because there are a lot of games like it doesn't make the game bad, but it does make the gameplay less exciting for new players. And I think it's safe to say Temple Run was going to have a hard time staying relevant from this point on. Temple Run 2 is a decent game, and compared to the others we've seen, I think it should go in A tier. Before I move on, I do want to note there is a Chinese version of Temple Run 2. God dang it, this is Plants vs. Zombies all over again! I really tried to see what it was all about, but man, no one is documenting the series, dude. They got a wiki, but the thing is barren. There's a page for Temple Run 3 on there, and I hate to break it to you, but there ain't no damn Temple Run 3. Anyways, all I can gather about the Chinese version is that there are unique maps and multiplayer? Which is extremely cool. It's crazy we don't have multiplayer in our version. It's not like you're running on the same course or something, you kinda just do your own thing, but it's still a good idea. They actually got a Great Wall of China map, which is a fun connection to the origins of the first game. From what I've seen, it's not way better or way worse than the Temple Run 2 we've already ranked. The maps seem much more interesting, so for all I know, it could be the superior version. Please let me know if there's something cool I missed, but otherwise it'll go in A tier 2. Only 1 month after the release of Temple Run 2, we'd see the next movie tie-in game for the series. Again, Brave was a success, and Disney was like, well, that worked one time, let's just throw another franchise at it and see what happens. And so the movie of the year that everyone definitely hasn't forgotten about got its own Temple Run game. It says a lot when this game is more memorable than the damn movie. On February 27, 2013, Oz Run Great Powerful Jump was released. And man, did it live up to the hype! Wait, what? You think this is the wrong game? What other game would let you run for your life in the land of Oz? That sounds like so much freaking fun. Well fine, what game do you think I'm supposed to be playing? Oh, yeah, that definitely makes more sense. Apparently at some point in my life, I was feeling so nostalgic for the Wizard of Oz Temple Run game that I downloaded this weird knockoff, so clearly it must be good. Let's try this again. On February 27, 2013, Temple Run Oz was released, and man, did it live up to the hype! Oz the Great and Powerful is a new take on the Wizard of Oz that released in 2013. It's focused on Oz himself, because of course it is. My favorite part about the Wizard of Oz was definitely the Oz part. The movie sucked and was quickly forgotten a year later. It really doesn't matter what I thought of the movie, the important part is the new game. It has a lot of similarities with the Brave spin-off. It cost 99 cents, featured characters and locations from the movie, and was a massive success. I owned both these games as a kid, and I really loved them both. It's pretty much the only reason I ended up watching the Oz movie, so clearly their branding worked on me at the very least. I know people have extremely fond memories of this game too, but this time, I couldn't believe my eyes. First good thing, I get to play as James Franco, aka Oz the Great and Powerful, so already this is top tier. But there's so much more than that. Flying monkeys? The perfect substitute for demon monkeys. Already this is top tier. Alright, I know it sounds like I'm being facetious, but listen to this. Remember how I said Temple Run needs locations to tie into one another, and you could get to new places by running far enough? Well, they actually freaking listened, traveled back in time, and put it in this game! I'm honored, truly. I told you guys it'd be a cool idea. 1 minute you're on the Yellow Brick Road, then you run through a tunnel and come back out on Emerald City. Once you make it to a new location, you get to start there in the next round. There's actual progression here. And on top of that incredible mechanic, look at these locations. The forest looks great, but Emerald City is really all I've been wanting from the series. We're always out in nature, jumping over trees, but here we're in a man-made city with people out to get you. It's really cool. There's at least 4 locations, each featuring unique music, obstacles, everything. In one run, I went through all 4 and it was the freaking best time of my damn life! Remember the one new feature in Brave, the ability to shoot targets on a single straight path? Yeah, let's compare that to the hot air balloon mode. If only we could shoot arrows at our hot air balloon, huh? Every single aspect of Temple Run Oz is exactly what I've been wanting from a Temple Run game. It's really only lacking in characters and upgrades, but I don't freaking care. Those are my least favorite parts of the games anyways. I don't need to play as China Girl. I'm already James Franco, aka Oz the Great and Powerful, thank you. Forget everything I said about the first game being my favorite. We have challenging Temple Run gameplay featuring multiple in-game locations with tons of obstacles and challenges. This is the best Temple Run game yet. I can totally see why you would download a knockoff game just to attempt to be able to play this again. Wait, that was me that did that. Whatever, doesn't matter, dude. S tier. I truly cannot believe the high I'm on right now. I can't freaking wait to see the next Temple Run game. Oh good, that was the last new Temple Run game. Well great, so awesome. If that's it, then why the hell is the video still going? Apparently, I'm being told that we're just getting damn started. Christmas came early in 2013 as the newest Temple Run game released on December 23rd of that year. But as I just mentioned, there aren't any new Temple Run games. Rather than a new game, we got Temple Run VR. If I had a nickel for every time there's a mobile series VR game, yada yada yada, give me my 2 nickels already. I get motion sick from VR games, and freaking dead sprinting and sliding under trees and stuff sounds like a recipe for a bad afternoon. Sadly, I don't have a VR headset, so I don't have to make myself sick anytime soon. From interviews I've read, it sounds like Amanju is generally interested in VR, found this to be a fun experience, and even realized it wouldn't be financially ideal. The game was released for free, and there weren't ads or microtransactions in mind. It gives me hope for the game, and Imanji as a studio. The game starts you right in front of the idol, freaking triple dog daring you to take it. The monkeys in this game are more terrifying than ever as they climb down alongside you, and as you burst into this bright expanse of tundra, you even see them run alongside you sometimes. As you run, you can see the monkey shadow behind you. And of course, when you die, you're looking from inside the thing's stomach. Incredible. The game seriously looks really cool. I have to wonder what it's like to control. Temple Run from a first-person perspective just seems smart, and VR takes it to a completely new level. At the same time, a lot of reviewers said that there's really no reason to look anywhere other than forward, or else you're probably gonna die, so being in the medium of VR is a bit wasted. I still think it'd be cool just to feel like you're the runner in this world, being chased by giant evil monkeys. Please let me know if you tried the game and what you think of it. The terrain looks a lot simpler with much less to do than your typical Temple Run game, but I think that's fair for a VR game. Reviews seem pretty much right down the middle for the game, mentioning flaws like getting motion sick easily and poor controller implementation. I'll put it in B for now, and if I hear a bunch of people say it's really good or really bad, I can change it. Finally, Temple Run makes the game we've all been waiting for! A Match 3 spin-off. Come on, admit it, every time you were running away from those monkeys and enjoying the fast-paced action, you were thinking to yourself, man, this would be so much better as a Match 3 game. I know I was. Temple Run went dead silent for 3 years, or even longer than that if you exclude the VR game. Every game had been a hit, so I'm not really sure why. Of course, Temple Run 2 was their staple game, so it's not as if the franchise was non-existent, it just wasn't getting new entries. Then, out of the blue, a company named Scopely soft-launched this puzzle game. They worked with The Walking Dead, Looney Tunes, even Marvel. Not all their games are too bad, but you gotta keep in mind they also made Monopoly Go and Stumble Guys. Not a brand you want to associate with, Imanji. Well, it's too late. I am curious why they felt the need to make this series out of any into a match 3 game, but every brand has to have a match 3 game. I'm pretty sure that's like Rule 34 of the internet or something. Let's watch a bit of the trailer together. They show our character exploring and climbing with epic music, and on the beat drop it shows the exciting gameplay of match 3 puzzles. And why do the characters look like that? I guess there's a reason we typically only see the back of their heads, huh? The game doesn't exist anymore, so I got an APK for this one too. I don't feel the need to go too in depth here, considering, every match 3 game is exactly the goddamn same, and it's going to take a miracle to earn any other placement on our tier list than D tier. Just for that simple reason. The game originally released with a very similar art style to the main games. The overworld honestly doesn't look too bad. And here's the gameplay. Wow, my favorite part of Temple Run was always the geometrically shaped colorful gems. I can't wait to match them together. The absolute only instance of the gameplay referencing the Temple Run series is the idle power-up. If you saw this gameplay outside of a Temple Run themed video, this looks like the most generic bare-bones match 3 game to ever exist. I don't know why you need me to tell you this, but I don't think Temple Run players are going to want to play this game. If you like Temple Run, chances are you like fun, exciting gameplay. You like adventure, you like intrigue. This has none of that. Even if you really like Temple Run as a brand, look at this shit. It's not even trying to look like a Temple Run game. It's pathetic, it's horrible, and we're moving on. 4 years later, the game was reworked into an Apple Arcade exclusive called Puzzle Adventures. Sorry to those of you who hate Apple Arcade, it's a necessary part of the series' history, and it's not the only game we'll be talking about. Treasure Hunters eventually became this game at some point in its lifespan. The gameplay I showed before was from an early version of the game, but any gameplay of the most recent update looks identical to Puzzle Adventure. It is pretty different now, so I think it makes sense to rank both. There's an even earlier version of the game where your gameplay affects the characters at the top of the screen. How many versions are there? At least that one has elements of Temple Run on screen. If there's something I always wanted from Temple Run, it was a story. I always wanted Scarlet to turn around when she was running and say, "This reminds me of my senior prom," and I get all invested in her backstory and shit. I mean, come on, even the original version of this game didn't try to force a narrative on you. It was unashamed to be a bad puzzle game at least. If I wanted to know the story, I'd read the Temple Run books, just saying. And yes, they're real, that wasn't a joke. The game has been babyfied too. You've done it now. You've removed the charm of the game's graphics and made it yet another run-of-the-mill mobile game. The gameplay is somehow even more generic than it already was. That's generally impressive. Anyways, I half expected Amnon to poke his head out of that box at the beginning, I can't lie. These games always say like, wonderful or scrumptious when you beat a level or something, but here it just says, Temple Run! As if that's a cool thing to shout when you're pumped up or something. This rafting section is frustratingly bad. They could have at least given you motion controls to do it, give you some feeling of the Temple Run gameplay mechanics. Nope, that would be too much effort for this game, clearly. At least on Apple Arcade you don't have to worry about in-app purchases or ads. Let's remind ourselves that Imanji didn't technically make these games, but they did allow them to be made, so either way they're complicit. I hope they made negative money on these games, I really do. The best version of the Temple Run puzzle games is the only version I didn't get to freaking play. I will happily play Citizen D tier so we can move on. We've made it full circle to the point where we're just playing the first game again. Apple Arcade is paired up with nearly every classic mobile game to make a re-release for their service. Some are pretty different, like Crossy Road Plus, and others like Temple Run Plus are exactly the same. Graphically at least, it looks identical, but there are a couple of tiny additions. New characters, weekly challenges, stuff like that. If you want to know the point, well, the main one is for Apple to get people to buy their subscription service. But as a player, it's very nice to not have to watch an ad every time I die. It's a definitive version of the first game, but if you don't have Apple Arcade, you're definitely not missing out on anything. We'll put it in S, of course. Let's move to the newest, final entry in the series. So, just what is the final game? Another attempt at an endless runner? A new puzzle game? A completely different genre? Well, buckle up because it's the most exciting gameplay loop of all. An idle game! What an inspired idea! At least we know this was a passion project. This one was made by Bigfoot Studios, so at this point I'm wondering what Imanji's even doing these days. They hosted an AMA on Reddit for it, received about 2 questions and 2 complaints, and answered a question about Temple Run 3 saying they don't care about Temple Run, they just want to give players new experiences. Guys, who let Romeo give a business lecture to Amanji? Seriously, what a depressing end to the once inspiring indie studio. Once again, we have an extremely cartoony art style, which is typically my thing, but not for Temple Run. The logo just makes me sad, man. I've literally never played a game that forced me to create an account like this. What the actual hell am I about to play? I mean this genuinely. What the hell is this? Who is actually playing this game? This is for no one. Not fans of Temple Run, not fans of idle games, nobody. Here's the gameplay. You unlock buildings by doing these weird little puzzle runs, the only aspect of Temple Run in the game, and you complete missions to earn artifacts and move to new locations. Each time you make an artifact, you start over with new buildings and new characters to unlock. Look at these stupid, ugly characters. Guy Dangerous just pisses me off here. Rate the game, huh? I'm not so sure you want me to rate your game. Clearly, I'm not an idle game guy, but even if I was, I have to imagine that there were tons of better ones out there. The only reason to play this one I can think of is that there's a Demon Monkey Professor character. I had to play way too much of this game to see him, so you're welcome. Don't play this game. It's really sad to see what Temple Run has become. Let's put the final game in the Temple Run series in the most crowded tier there is, D tier. The original game is great because it doesn't have a constant stream of updates and events that desperately try to grab at your attention, but that's also the exact reason why it died and Subway Surfers survived. Ironically, they ran out of stamina and the monkeys caught up to them. By the time the second game released and had a consistent event stream, it was far too late, and the only people playing these kinds of games had already chosen Subway Surfers, and I don't blame them. It's not that Temple Run had bad games. I definitely enjoyed my time revisiting them, but they were fighting a hopeless battle from day one. Imanji felt like they had created a brand. They felt an obligation to make more Temple Run games for the fans. They started as a small company making games and fighting for success, and the second they found it, they latched on and never let go. As far as I can tell, they've not made anything other than Temple Run games since the original release. On top of that, they made merchandise, book series, spin-off games, and even had a movie in development at one point. All of this for Temple Run! There are very few series out there I can confidently say that should have only made one entry for, and Temple Run is absolutely an example of that. Even if you enjoyed your time with Brave, Oz, or the sequel, they were all created in an attempt to keep this series alive, a series that was never intended to go any further than the first. Imanji was such an inspiring little company consisting of 3 hardworking individuals. The first game took 3 people to make, the second game took 5 people to make, and through it all, Imanji refused to give in to investors who wanted to drive their franchise into the ground. The sad thing is, their series never had a chance. The second other games in the genre flooded the app stores was the second Temple Run lost all originality. They dug their own grave, and that's really tragic. The series is technically ongoing, and with the amount of releases we've seen in the past few years, I wouldn't be surprised by more, and I am fully expecting a Temple Run 3. I'd love to make a small review of that game if it ever comes to be. I am unsure of the future of Temple Run, and I wish Imanji all the best in their endeavors, but in my mind, the series died over 10 years ago, and I hope to see them move on to bigger and better things. Why do these videos always have to end so tragically? It's not fair. Why can't a mobile game developer just have a happy ending for once? Either way, I hope you enjoyed seeing the history of the Temple Run series. Before you tell me I ranked any of these poorly, at least go back and try them first. If you can, I guess. You'll need an APK for a couple of them. I would like to do the Bloons series next. I'm a little worried about it because I have no prior knowledge of its history and the fans of the series seem a little cutthroat. If you got any deep cut knowledge of the history of the series, I'd love to hear it. Videos like this are only possible because of my patrons and channel members. Let's all join hands and Temple Run to the polls! I'm already holding hands with Leland, Patrick Barjan, Bright Streak, MD Switchy, Dolphin Rider H2O, Dojo Master, Chris Howe Creations, Lavatane, Jasper TV, Keep, Omegon, Galguy, Jep the Legend, Cheaper Ying, Gotham, Marie, Callum Ford, Dawnstar Plays, Stuff Happens Sometimes, Peacock, Sharky, OK, Cyro's Taken, and Pika Girl for you. Can you believe we never got a Temple Run Indiana Jones game? Can you believe we never get a Temple Run Kung Fu Panda game? Can you believe we never got a Temple Run Rick and Morty game? Can you believe we never got a Temple Run Skibbity Toilet game? Can you believe we never got a Temple Run DJ Khaled game? Every game had been a hit. Every game had been an it. I don't need to play as China Girl. I'm already James Franco, aka the Great. I don't need to play as China Girl. I'm already James Franco, aka the Great. I don't need to play as China Girl. I'm already James Franco, aka the. I don't need to play as I don't need to play as China Girl. I'm already James Franco, aka Oz the Great and Powerful. Thank you.